So Deepesh, Camber's worked in like large scale deployments as well, not just pilot programs, obviously. What would you say to people that you've learned from kind of these large scale deployments that they should be thinking about now rather than wait until they're already there?
Yep, yep. But one of the things, maybe the first thing is what I talked about maybe a couple of questions ago, even for the guys who are fence sitting or in it and so on, is really future-proofing your infrastructure, right? So even if you're not going to electrify today, you want to think of electrifying tomorrow because construction is expensive. Digging a trench is expensive. It's disruptive. So really future-proofing, if you're doing your very first few chargers and you're going to expand later, you want to think through saying, okay, at max capacity, what is this going to look like? Am I going to apply for that kind of power with the utility up front? And there are costs associated with that, so you want to plan that accordingly. Next is, what kind of transformer am I going to put on site? I'm going to try and put all the conduits in ground beforehand. I don't need to put the chargers because I'm not ready for it yet, but have those pieces set up because you don't want to go back in, reach, trench, dig, and those things become pretty expensive. So really future-proofing your site on the construction side, as well as in the chargers you select. There are some chargers that are scalable, some that are not, right? So Camber provides, we have a unique solution. It's called the 1440. As the name suggests, it's, over a megawatt of power, but you don't have to use all of that up front, right? You can start really small with a few dispensers, and then you can scale to a really large number of dispensers at the right time. But you're not redoing anything. You're just adding to stuff that's already been built and prepared for, so that you can, appropriately increase your charging capacity as you add vehicles into your fleet. So I would say that's one. Second is really designing for redundancy, and this is always a big, it's a big. I would say it's an interesting discussion with the customer because the customer may think it's the vendor trying to add an extra charger, but that's not the case. You want to make sure that you're not just exactly right 1:1 with your vehicles on chargers, because if a charger is, these are mechanical products, right? It is going to break, it is going to fail. There's no magic there. So in case a charger fails and you're in a mission critical application, you want to make sure there's some level of redundancy there that you can actually move forward with your operations while the chargers are getting fixed. Or, as I said, picking scalable chargers where even if one or two modules are out, the rest of the system still functions. So really thinking of redundancy is probably the second piece of it. Third, I would say, is prioritizing service and uptime, because we've touched on this multiple times. But if you're not really focused on those pieces, it comes back to bite you later. So as you're thinking of large-scale deployments, if you're not thinking early on what preventive maintenance packages I need, or do I need SLAs and commitments from my supplier partners on keeping these up and running for beyond the warranty period, 3 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, whatever that is, that's really important that you are walking in with a partner who can commit to certain outcomes for you, and you have that peace of mind. The last thing we just touched on is in the previous point, which is scalable software that is not beholden to a certain hardware. There's some software out there that is limited to certain hardware. There's some hardware that's limited to certain software. You want software that's agnostic. You want hardware that's agnostic because you don't know what you're going to buy tomorrow, right? You may start out with make X or software Y, but in 3 years, you're smarter, wiser, things have changed. The industry has evolved, whatever, and you want to be able to mix and match and change. So really having scalable and flexible architecture in your software and hardware is another key piece of the equation.